But look at the world. World is controlled by language. The so-called great humanity is almost completely controlled and governed and directed by language and language and language alone. The language of politics, the language of religions, the language of various ideologies, language of various cultures, language of various traditions, language of various attitudes, values, principles. Everywhere there is language. It is really omnipresent. And all the so-called subject matters, thousands and thousands of them, the philosophies to the great technologies, they are all expressed, explained, interpreted in language. The entire education system is based on language. What is physics? It's a language. Chemistry is a language. Medicine is a language. Mathematics is a language. Engineering is a language. Our so-called mind is created and it is maintained and it exists by language. The often going that so-called stream of consciousness, it is language. But they are all named differently, like thoughts, ideas, theories, questions, answers, interpretations, analysis. They are all basically given in the format of language. Certain language we say question, certain language we say answer, certain language we say physics. Rather, a certain reality is conceptualized through a unique medium of language. The language of physics is not suitable to chemistry, not suitable to biology, not suitable to medicine, not suitable to engineering. See? That's all. We can go forever. But let us delimit ourselves to refer to language and attention, unfortunately, for the time being. Because that is the critical thing. Because the guy who is good in language of physics, his attention goes into whatever is explained. The sharpness of his attention gives him clarity about physics or chemistry or botany or psychology or medicine or philosophy, etc., etc. So this is by way of an introduction. Now I want every one of you to say your own analysis, your own perceptions, rather your language about language and attention. Restate it. By the way, I want you to master the language. Why? Because the world is controlled by language. I am not talking about the global scenario. I am not talking about the national scenario of political leadership or religious leadership or ideological leadership alone or institutional leadership or leaders themselves. I am talking about how your leadership of your own existence depends a lot on your language. That is why. So you should have that kind of a control, like you are controlled on the steering of a car. You should have better stated it, Ganesh, that even emotions are expressed through language. What you said is correct. You said language is a tool for expressing our emotions. Okay. There are other tools to express our emotions also. But much more powerful is the statement if you make, even emotions are expressed through language. That's a very, very, even that situation you made in a single English statement. But do you understand the process involved? Do you understand the real complexity involved in or symbolized or indicated by that single statement that even emotions are communicated or expressed through language? This is what I told you in one of my sentences in the beginning. Emotions are translated into language first, and then you talk about it or you keep it in your mind. So-called emotions. Okay. Where is the translation happening? How are you being really sure that you are translating or you are communicating your emotions? Why do you want to communicate your emotions? See, there are so many questions. Why a language has to be there? What is the role of a language when a real emotion is happening in you? Is that statement understood? What is the role of language when an emotion is live happening in you? Whether that emotion is named sadness or depression or disappointment, or envy or jealousy or greed or worry or whatever, or anger or animosity or whatever, or joy or ecstasy or blissfulness or peace or whatever, why there should be a language along with that? With that language, to whom you are communicating? You are sitting alone in a room, at 11 o'clock night you have an emotion and you get it in a language, and what that language, used language is to communicate, that emotion is then communicated to whom? Yeah, okay, you say it is self. So that means, you see what is the role of language? It is interfering, it is in between yourself and your emotions. Is that great? Is that wonderful language? Then look at language, what is it? It is able to enter into your physiology, because emotion is a purely physiological, rather an autonomic process. And language enters there and it interprets to you. You read an emotion as depression, you read an emotion as happiness, you read an emotion as frustration, you read an emotion as whatsoever going on in your own mind. What is the guarantee that your language of carrying that emotion is the correct language? First of all, why there should be a language? Secondly, what is the guarantee? Who gave you that language to refer to your own deeper emotions? Where did you get that language from? Think about all these things. Okay, you are talking about emotions. Why that language is, again, there are hell of a lot to discuss in between. Hell of a lot. Covering, just pushing away a lot of other perceptions. And now I am asking you another question. My question, it was a language. What are your perceptions about language and attention? What that language is doing in your so-called thought process? That language is not, you said emotion is converted into a language, or emotion is expressed by a language. So a language you heard, it gets translated into emotions, that's a different story. That language you heard, is it not translating itself? Is it not communicating to your own thought process and generate some ideas about language and attention? So these are the three primary ways in which you can look at language. One is read language, including written language. Two, spoken language or talked language, talked by somebody as well as by you. And then three, much more predominantly all the time happening, is the thought language. Thought language meaning the language running through your thought process consciously or non-consciously, which is all the time, most of the time there, whether you are aware it or not. Okay. These are the three major dimensions of language as it is operating really inside you. No, Parvati, that is something like Ganesha. No, no, that's all different domains. You use the word language only as a communication thing. Then you have to talk about computer language, program language, signal language, etc., etc. That they are using the word language like what Ganesh said in the beginning as a communication medium. We are not talking about that technology level. We are talking about natural, normal language, like Tintin pointed out. Dr. Vinay also said. Just the language that you read in the book or the newspaper or in the signboards or in a email or in a written document. Second, the talked language, the language that you hear from your colleagues, your boss, your co-workers, your beloveds, your people around, etc., etc. And third, the language that runs through your mind. Is that clear? We are talking about actual language, words and sentences of a language you have learned from the environment. And that learning is so ridiculously effective. And that learning was never really perfect. That learning happened very coincidentally, very situation based, very interaction, context based and all that. That's why even with your mother tongue, Malayalam or Tamil or Hindi or English, you have to learn that language specifically in the school also. Because that language is very sporadic, very minimal. It is so lucky in a way that knowingly or unknowingly all education systems in the world happen to include the so-called mother tongue also as one of the languages of study. Actually, I wonder why they did that. Why should you learn Tamil in the school if your mother tongue is Tamil? Why should you learn Hindi in school if your mother tongue is Hindi? Why should you learn English if your mother tongue is English? But luckily, somebody did that. It has done a little bit of wonders with educated people also, no doubt about that. But that is nothing. For example, like Ganesh said, okay, here I told you language itself is a great topic. Language attention is our topic today. But just one thing which he mentioned, okay, emotions. Our emotions are expressed through language. That's what he said. That is one side. What is the other side of that statement? What is the other side of that referent reality? Not clear. Yeah. On the other hand, language can induce emotions. So it is a double-edged sword. It is double-sided. One, emotions are translated into language and language gets translated into emotions. Wonderful. See, a learned thing, language, how it gets such a ridiculously powerful role, first of all, in inducing emotions in a person, which is happening with everyone in the world, educated, uneducated, rural, or remote, or advanced, or highly educated. On one side, which is easy, Tindon. Now, like Ganesh said, how many of you can really effectively translate an emotion into language? Either by talking or by writing. An idea, a learned idea about a project proposal or a medical report or an HR analysis, you may be able to write. Or you may be able to talk about your learning in physics or chemistry or maths or engineering or medicine or management or philosophy. But can you translate a deep emotion, a higher range of emotion, or even a very ordinary emotion? And who normally do it? Who can normally do that? What is the name of that class of people who are capable of that? Huh? Hmm? Absolutely. As of now, only poets have been attributed that competency to communicate, especially very deeper, very subtle, very deeper levels of emotions into language. And that language cannot be even prose, sentences. That can be expressed only in unique syntax, unique structures of sentences called poetry. How many of you can write poetry? Without poetry, or at least without poetic language, you are just, sorry to say, you are just a failure in communicating your emotions to another person. With all the languages you are capable of, to what extent you are capable of communicating the real shades of emotions you experience? And this is very important. Forget about emotion. That is a question left to you. Try writing poetry when you are in depression, when you are in sadness, when you are in confusion, when you are in conflict, when you are in worry. Alright, when you are in anger, when you are in joy, when you are in blissfulness, try to write it poetically. Not to publish it, but to train that most beautiful process of the human brain, uh, which receives language. And brain researchers as well as linguists say that this huge cerebral cortex of the human being, it seems that even the very so-called God wanted human beings to master language, because most part of the cerebral cortex, the grey matter, really blooms with language. The maximum extra part of the human brain, which is not there in most of the animal kingdom, is mainly for language, actually speaking. Do you see? That's why you should be developing your language. You should be reading a lot and reflecting upon that. And that's why you should be writing. Because written language is very different from spoken language. You can experiment it with you or with somebody else. Someone is talking about a film or somebody is talking about some ordinary stuff, and ask him or her to write it down. Most of the time they will not be able to write it down. You know that? And every one of you should practice writing. I had told in the beginning that you should have a journal. Why? Because then only you will be able to communicate, to develop a person. We are talking about mentorship, we are talking about leadership, we are talking about guiding other people. We are talking about pointing out a direction to other people. Because what is the point of you becoming a genius if that blooming is not beneficial for at least one another person? That's very important if you talk about even for your self-discovery, to become a genius in self. Because genius itself is expressed through the language. Especially for a genius leader, a mystic. Because a mystic is not about physics or chemistry or engineering or medicine. A mystic is about existence. Existential truths which you have to convey to other people or to other persons or at least to one person. at least to your children. Let us say basically your basic responsibility is to create a great child and gift it to the world. A great child, a great individual, not M.Tech, a PhD from MIT or Harvard or JNU or IIT or IA. That there are thousands and thousands. And that needs a beautiful language, a powerful language, a sharp language. I was simply call him and be a good boy, you have to do like this, you have to behave like this. It will not work. Okay, it may work in peripheral relationship in society. How will you make your child a genius? How will you make your child a great entity? That needs this level of language which we are intending to understand, okay? That's because only a genius can train another genius. Only a great individual can train another great individual, no doubt about that. And every one of you have to do it. I am saying very seriously because the world is changing. The world has already become chaotic. It is going to become much more chaotic and volatile and dangerous and unethical. No doubt about that. At that time, your children have to become leaders wherever they are. That is your commitment to your existence, let me tell you. Whether they are aware of not, whether they are grateful to you or not, that is not your concern. That is your duty. Then you become a father or a mother. How will you direct his attention? Through your language. No doubt talking good things will not make a good person, okay? Good things are told by every parent to their children, which I have told you before. Even a criminal talks only good things to his child. Only by language you will be able to understand the deeper points of existence. Only by language you will be able to understand the details of your child or your trainee or your students or your mentees or your disciples. Get the point? Because no two people are the same or identical at a deeper level. If you have two trainees, you will have to talk in two dimensions of language. Or your language to 9 trainees should be a statistical mean of ideas that are applicable to every one of them here or there. How will you know that? There is no technique for that. Okay, such a situation comes, you talk like this. In some other situation, you talk like this. If your son or your trainee is behaving like this, you do like this. It is impossible. It will not work either. You have to discover. That discovery requires language. When something is falling, there was a language in the mind of Newton. Why it fell down, that why was the reason. Such a language of doubting that incident did not occur to other people. That is the background from which we come to the point, language and attention. How your language will direct the attention of your child. How your language will direct the attention of your colleague or your spouse or to your boss or to your colleague or to a stranger or to your students or to your group, your team members. Point number one. How your language will make you a so-called creative person, an efficient decision maker. You talk about decision making or all this blah blah blah. These are all by language. A decision is a language. A conclusion is a language. An observation is a language. An analysis is a language. Known in different names. That's all. Those who are good at primary thing is the power of language. Conceptualizing. Carrying into words what you reflect upon. Let me think about it, people say. You are all thinking now for the last 10 minutes what to talk about attention and language. Why that thinking is not generating 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences? Wonder about it. Don't feel about it. Wonder about it. You can all talk about many things for hours together. Why you are not able to talk 3 sentences about language and attention? What is the problem? You answer what? Why you are not able to think? No. Louder please, little more audible but very vague. Very volume is much less. It's okay. Very clearly audible, Tindin. Okay, proceed please. Once again. Definitely. Absolutely. And therefore, okay, alright, good idea. It points out to a problem. Because most of the talking which you do, be aware, are very peripheral talking. Okay, that is required for a social etiquette. Okay? Alright. But even that ordinary conversation can be reflected back in your way. Try to do that. There is no rule that you have to talk the same level of interpretations the other person is giving. There is a mental block with a great lot of people that you are supposed to talk the same way as the other person is talking. Why it is so is because the other person will lose interest or other person will think something about you and will stop talking to you. That is why. Let him stop talking to you. It is better than working the beautiful engine of your language in a peripheral way and getting trained in that. Once you have mastered your language, you can talk nonsense. But once you master your language, you cannot talk nonsense. That's a different story. Then you don't have to reply, you can just listen to that. Then, whatever one talks, even if it is about peripheral stupid politics, You can have a different plane of analysis for that also, Tintin, no doubt about that. If you talk something back, it should be at your level of genius and self. That's what I said. Because this program is about a major sentence. Genius and self. The language of this program is mostly corresponding or correlating to that direction, Tintin. And I am very serious about it. I am very dedicated to that. And I am very sure about it. And that is possible. And let me also remind you, don't feel not able to respond anything properly during the sessions. I am sure all these are working. Out of my experience, which started as early as 1983, 84, 85. Okay, those who just heard this kind of discussions, they are all masters in whatever they do in their environment, in their relationships and so on and so forth. So, if at all you are not able to respond at this point of time, then it doesn't matter though. Okay. So, what was your answer? So, why you are not able to talk anything about language and attention is because most of the time your language of thought is trained in responding to available topics, ordinary topics, or routine topics, work-related topics. Okay, work-related topics, okay, beautiful. Even there you can make your difference. No doubt about that. Even if you're talking about technology or medicine or management or human resources, you can make your difference. The way you even structure a syntax, like Ganesh said what? Language is a tool to express our emotions. It's a fact, agreed. But much more powerful statement is, even emotions are expressed through language, which is much more deeper and powerful, because emotions are an organic process. Emotions occurred much before language was discovered. Even for a given individual, for a baby, emotions are already there. By the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 only it develops a language. Even that emotions are expressed to somebody else through a language. And language is not an integral part of the body, like emotions. Emotions are generated by the body process, programmed. And that programmed processes and its correlates are expressed through emotions. And we talked about poetry as the greatest form of expressions of feelings and emotions at a deeper, subtle range. And it is a test of your language in developing somebody else, in guiding somebody else, in so-called therapeutic interactions. All developmental language is therapeutic. Therapeutic meaning not in the sense of Dr. Vinay in a medical way. Because if you want to develop somebody, there is something, some anomaly is there, let us say. If someone, when language is equally available to everyone, somebody is mastering it. Get the point? It is not by just by reading. There are a lot of people who read a lot, but they are not capable of talking in a creative way. They may talk about a certain book that they have read. Even then, three equally selected people in a controlled experimental condition, three individuals of the same age, same education, etc., 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 controlled condition we call it. You are giving them a piece of poetry and they read it for 10 minutes and they are asked to talk about it. And you will see one of them really talks about it in a much more better way than the remaining two. And I want every one of you to be that number one. Because you need that sharpness of language in order to train somebody, in order to mentor somebody, in order to guide somebody, in order to help somebody. Really. And if you have that beautiful language, definitely that alone will work. because language is directly connected with the engine of attention. How will you redirect the attention of a person who is not good in studies, do not know how to behave with other people, do not know how to manage his or herself, do not know how to control his or her alcoholism or so-called many subtle mental deviations and mental variations? How will you direct that person? We need that sharp edge of language. Yeah, loudly please. Yes, Mantra Rishika. Yeah, why not, please? Once again. Yeah, beautiful. Wonderful. Correct. Correct. Uh, Alright. Yeah, I saw a message of Parvati. Yeah. That's a brilliant point, Mantra Rishika. The problem is, in most of the life situations, we are all living. Living is relating. Living is talking. Living is talking. That's the world today. Okay? Therefore, most of the topics are known to each other, including almost most of the emotions, most of the normal emotions. Okay? And for that, everybody knows some language already available, because that has been a topic. At the age of 25, 30, 35, 40 and all that, most of the things are known. Anybody can talk, even so-called fish market ladies can talk about relationships and problems in life, how to manage it, how not to manage it, etc., etc. So, as Mantra Rishika pointed out, for almost everything, when it comes across you, you have an initial response to that, because you know it. That's what Mantra Rishika said, right? And which prevents the possibility of further creation or discoveries of new languages which can most effectively tackle the situation. Right? That's what you said, Mantra. Yes, correct. Beautiful. Yes, that's what is happening. Definitely. That's what we are. Okay. Proceed. Not clear. Read it clearly, thoroughly. Once again, you say it thoroughly, clearly. Okay. Yeah, that is a strategy she is suggesting. Yeah, that definitely. We have to not get rid of language. We have to create a new relationship. We have to rediscover our relationship with language. Because our fundamental relationship with language is through the mother tongue. And that mother tongue has been induced or inducted or trained into us through various unclear contexts and situations. The mother was not every day taking a book of Rabindranath Tagore or T.S. Eliot and talking that to the child. Of course, most mothers, but of course, my mother did that only to me. And that's what I am today. Or my mother talked to me a lot of fairy tales and mythologies and things like that. Modern mothers do not just do that. That's a different story. They only talk ordinary stuff. And some classroom tuitions. That's what they do. I would say 99% of the modern mothers. And increasingly it will be so. I know the modern generation. They have nothing. Nothing is retained in their mind. Everything is in the smartphone. So that's a different story. So what I am telling is, most of the time our language comprehension, comprehending and mastering another language also is based on our grasp and control on our mother tongue. So you don't have to rediscover your relationship with the mother tongue. You have to reflect on language that you speak, language that you write, the language that you hear. It's an easy way, because you are hearing a lot of language. Everybody is talking. Don't get into that game and you also participate in that game. So sit apart and listen to their language. That itself gives you a lot of clues on how to modify and moderately improve your own language, Nitya. When there's a crowd of people or a group of people or even two people are there, when they are talking, don't be just an involuntary or automatic participant in that language. Just listen. Like I did. Ganesh said a very meaningful statement which I don't think even a linguist will contradict it. Ganesh said, our emotions, language is a tool to express our emotions. There could be even a definition of that, of course. But I corrected it. Rather, I improved upon it. I said, even emotions are communicated through language, because our topic is the importance of language. Our topic is not emotions. That's why we have to say like that. So you have to rediscover your relationship with language. One of the easiest way is to listen to the language of normal peripheral talk of other people. When you are also a participant in that, you forget to observe it. You will not observe it. You become a participant in the group game. Stand apart as a referee. And please be careful. You will see a lot of anomalies. Do not point out it. But you learn your lessons and you think about your language, whether I am making similar mistakes, not mistakes, whether my language is at that level or not. Even in peripheral communication. But of course, peripheral communications about what did you do today, where did you go yesterday, what was the item you purchased yesterday. These are the peripheral talkings, okay? Very rarely you sit down with somebody and discuss about T.S. Eliot or Shakespeare or Tagore or Tao or Zen. Okay? Unfortunately, even in academic grounds, none of this is happening. I have been an observer throughout my life. I have seen how, let me tell you, I have never seen a group of even educated, highly educated people, including university lecturers and college professors, talking sensible things in their so-called conversations, Tintin. They are all peripheral topics which anybody on the road also can talk. Yes, it is by conformity and centricity, because they have to participate in the game. There is no rule. They may come and say, oh, Nitya, you are not talking anything. Yeah, alright, yeah, let me think about it. And if you talk, it should be a talk. Otherwise, just don't talk. Because that involves the language of your body, not the body language which Parvati mentioned. Because language becomes an organic component, my dear friends. This is not only my discovery. It is organic. Language is organic, unfortunately. Because as I told you, the huge cerebral cortex, the grey matter, is mostly with what you call processing language. The entire frontal lobe, trillions of cells, is all about language. So it's organic. That's why it should be impeccably clear. It should be poetic. Because if you have poetic language, if you have good thinking, if you have quality thinking, you will naturally end up in a peaceful equilibrium of the body. Let language be under your control. That automatically, instead of automatically emotion generating language, automatically other people controlling your emotions through their languages, etc., etc. What a shame it is. Somebody else makes a dialogue and you are affected for days and months and years together. And that language is getting control over your attention. Language getting control on your attention. Come on, give examples. Creative thinking means creating thoughts. Creating thoughts. It can range from this kind of a simple example to a great piece of poetry. The range possible. You can forget about the range. And when you do that twist, you are gifting something to that person. When you are a genius, you have to gift. A genius is a gift to the world. Today I saw a film named Professor. What you call Johnny Depp is acting. It's a very eccentric kind of a film. But in the end of that film, he is giving a talk to the students, so brilliant. He is telling more or less the same thing which I told you now. And you know what he did? In the beginning of the class, he had 30 or 35 students. He said something and he asked two or three questions to them. For question number 1, whoever said certain answers, he said, you please get out of my class. Second question. Again he eliminated a few students out of the class. Third question, finally there were only some 10 or 12 students in the class, which I also have done. I also do in my classes, definitely. And to that group of 12 students, he is telling, you are all geniuses. You are a gift to the world. Do not forget it. Then I remembered, actually every one of you too. I decided in my mind that I must talk about this. I must tell the same sentence. Consider, are you a gift to the world? I am asking. World meaning not the entire globe. To one person around, to 2 people around, to 3 people around, to your colleagues, to your boss, to anybody. Of course, to talk about it, I don't really refer to Dr. Vinay or Sara. Sara is a teacher, Vinay is definitely a wonderful teacher. They are really giving gifts, though about subject matters. But other than giving the subject matter, do you give at least one extra statement every day, every session? In every session there must be an extra sentence of your wisdom, of your understanding about existence. That is the gift. Of course, the efficient conversion of a theory into comprehensible language and benefiting them, that is of course definitely a gift and it is a blessing, no doubt. That makes you a competent teacher, no doubt about it. But I am talking about a genius guru, a guide, a genius teacher, a genius CEO, a genius employee. You don't have to be a teacher, you don't have to be a CEO. You ask yourself. Otherwise, why do you want to become a genius? Why do you want to bloom if your fruits are not to be given to others? Yeah, Christabel also is a teacher. She is teaching dance. I don't see her face, I don't remember. Please be aware of that. And let me tell you, there is a real thrill in that. That's why. Even if that person is ungrateful and may never come back to you and tell you that I am immensely benefited by you, which may not happen increasingly in the world, forget about that. And also let me tell you in advance, nobody will be in the coming world, nobody will be grateful to you if you make him or her a wonderful person, okay? Because they want to own it by themselves. They want to claim that their greatness is their own. So that is not the issue here. Then something inside you will give you a certain feeling. Oh, that will require poetry to talk about it. Alright, what other question you can? Two more. I told you for everything there are three dimensions. For everything in the universe, there must be three dimensions. So listen to the language of other people. Because language is an organic process. The syntax of that language included is the way, let us say, Vinay, the autonomic nervous system works. Then you will come to know and notice the sound of people. Have you noticed the sounds of people? And every one of you have that immense power of the human entity that you can remember the sound of everyone. Somebody who was with you for 20 years back, he or she makes a call and most instantly you will listen, oh, you are that person, right? That kind of a beautiful memory for sounds is existing in every human being. But do you really notice the sounds of the talking of somebody when he or she or they are talking? We are all unknowingly remote controlled by our language comprehension training, started from early childhood. Then our attention will work in a different modality. Right now our attention on language is trained in a very peripheral way, just the meanings. What somebody should get the essence of it, that's all, finished. Get out of, Parvati said what you call detach from language. Detach from our current mode of attention to somebody else's talking. Look at his or her face expressions, look at his or listen to that particular person's sounds, sound variations, and the syntax of the language, the structure of that language. And it is easy to notice because most of the time a common topic will be talked by 5 people or 3 people or 2 people, okay? And you will realize that they are basically they are talking in different syntax about the same subject. Whether it is politics or religion or relationship or stories about other people or stories about their shopping or expeditions or excursions or parties. So, You have to train your attention to detach from people's so-called conversations to people's language. Language meaning, once again, the words they use, the sentences, the frequency, the sequence of an idea, etc., etc. And in the beginning it may not be that easy, but within 2, 3, 4, 5 days you will get a good feel of that. And you will be surprised that if they ask you something, even without much reflection, what you may respond or talk back will be definitely different. No doubt about that. Why it is so and all that will take a lot of time to explain. So, that is the central message you have to remember from today. Focus your attention not on what they talk, but on their language. Get the point, Nitya? You get the difference? Talk, I mean, normally attending their language, you get the essence of it. You are sitting there to comprehend what they are saying. That you don't have to put any effort, they are not talking anything great at all. You don't have to enter into that basketball game. You stand as a referee. Always be a referee of one's own self too. And then also the great side residual consequence that you will master your mind. The mastery of mind is possible only by the tool of language. Like you ask a different question to the student, you have to ask a different question to that student within who generates a stupid emotion inside you. Sarah said, don't focus your attention on the elephant, listen to the class. Do that to you, Sarah. Of course, needless to say, always read really, really great books with an awareness that while you are traveling through the words and sentences of that book, also be aware where your attention goes. You could have asked that child another question, Mandra Rishika. When you hear somebody saying an elephant is there, do you see an elephant in your mind? And you have to, when you read about an elephant, you have to see the elephant in your mind. So, read and develop that language levels also. As I told you, I know so many great readers, but their level of attention, their level of evolution as a human being is nothing. They are also ordinary university professors or management professors or somebody like that. That's all. They have all the knowledges, like reading and comprehending all the Qurans and Bibles and Gitas. They are still the ordinary people. Because their language makes them ordinary. Because you are basically a thought process. That's what René Descartes also said, the so-called great axiom of the modern times, I think, therefore I am. I always criticize that statement, but it was definitely a 50% meaning. Maybe 99% meaning for most people. They are what they think. That's what Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or great mystics like Vivekananda also said. Evolve in your thoughts. Thoughts make the man. This is a statement by Vivekananda. Also by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Or I mean the great mystics. Because what else? What else? I have discovered all these things on my own, and I have benefited out of that. As I told you, getting guided by Dr. Pradeep Khandwala, or escaping from many situations, or managing many things. In fact, in Bangalore, at least 10, 12, 13, 14 times I have been caught by the traffic police for violating rules. I did not pay a single rupee. Never. Okay, that's an extreme example. There are so many examples. In your life, you will not require those kind of things, because I was living an eccentric life. Therefore, I had to apply my this particular level most of the times. You may not need this though, but nevertheless, anyway, the language is at the end of the program, at the end of the day, by the end of all these things, every one of you have to become a genius in self. That means also the geniusness or the supreme competency to talk about, explain, analyze, interpret existential variations of other individuals whom you may come across at the office, in the workplace, or in society, or inside your own close environments. And finally, it will be definitely a wonderful blessing when you reach your lonely path at the end of the road. And because of the power of the language, I even created, you are not talking anything, a methodology called creativity therapy. It is nothing but efficient, very creative use of language only. Veena Ganesh is there, sitting there, she has mastered it. Just by talking for half an hour to a student who was really stupid and careless and whatever in her studies, he got good marks. And other behavior problems, drug addiction, whatever, I don't know. Just by talking. That's a great example of the power of so-called language and attention. By that kind of a language which Veena is somehow able to deliver, is capable of creating such a huge shift in the attitude, in the character, in the mindsets of the other person, which includes a parliament member, in fact, a politician, in case of Veena Ganesh. So, not for anything, just to develop an extra power, because language is not only a competency externally, but unfortunately it is an organic process. That's why language creates emotions. Language can direct your attention to certain aspect of your inner being and put you into terrible troubles. Days long, weeks long, months long, hour, year long, lifelong troubles just by language. Language induced attention to something. Somebody, great lot of situations can potentially create troubles in you. Great lot of situations. I mean, by language alone. Nobody, as of now, nobody can injure you by doings, physical doings. Even if physical doings, somebody beats you, your husband beats you, or your wife beats you and all, that will be forgotten. But by so-called violent language, by abusive language, by intimidating, humiliating, insulting language, that will create a lasting emotional turmoil in the minds of the audience, somebody else. Let somebody else suffer from that. But I want you to be absolutely blissful, unaffected by the dangerous weapons of language which many people are capable of. I used to wonder, most of these beggars are able to use language in a violent way very, very efficiently. But they cannot talk even 3 sentences in a beautiful way. See the problem of the world, the problem of the majority. They cannot make 10 minutes of romantic dialogues. But they can make 10 hours of violent languages, insulting, intimidating, what you call, almost virtually killing. And that is not in the penal code. Actually, that language violence should be identified and it should be included as a clause in the Indian or forget about whatever penal codes in the world. I think there is some rule in India about some openly abusive language, using foul language or something like that. But the other thing, there is no evidence, it's very difficult to collect evidence and proof. Most of the so-called marital life of today's time are completely corrupted and raped and what you call, whatever language is possible. Just by language only. So you have to talk about it whenever you get an opportunity to address the gathering. You have to write about it, whatever you can. Now there is a lot of research going on about language violence in Canada, Sweden and all that. And by language only everybody becomes that person, because language creates the self. That's what I said. This is not understood by the world. The criminal is a criminal because of his internal language. What we call internal dialogue or what we call intrapersonal dialogue. There's a lot of research by creativity people. His language is justifying him that you go and do this rape or murder. What else? Husbands are divorcing wives, wives are divorcing husbands, wives are abandoning their children and husband and go with another person. A great lot of things are going on. Increasingly it is going on. It is all because of the absolute poverty, absolute corruption, absolute what you call decay of internal dialogues. We call internal dialogue. Because in times of uncertain situations, there is a dialogue happening even in a criminal. Should I do it or should I not do it? A criminal, a lot of people think that a criminal is unaware of the consequences of his crime. He is aware. The corrupt guy knows very well the details of the aspects of unethicalness in his or her action. But despite that, there is a language protecting him, okay, counteracting, a counter logic by which he or she or they are justifying their stand. Then only they can decide and act. People are doing a lot of research on all these things. It's all just meaningless. And you also take that freedom to correct the language of other people. Do not talk like this, why don't you talk like that? And ask them to repeat what they say, like I do. Nitya. You can pretend, sometimes they may think that you are an idiot also. But very creatively, gently you repeat, will you please say that once again? Now you said it better. And say that, feedback. And he also will agree. Okay, so remember, language is like attention is the central engine of the human creature, organic system for survival. And the first thing that got connected with that attention is language, because you see the developmental environment of an infant, even to a little infant, newborn infant, not even 1 hour, the mother makes that sound, father figure makes that sound. Gradually everybody is sounding a language to that child. Carelessly. And in a home environment, most of the languages delivered to a child are some way or the other connected with emotional variations. Or emotions are provoked first by parents. Especially depressive dimension of emotions. Because that is the only way parents find it easier to control the child. So shout at it, the child does not understand the language, then the volume is raised, shouting, sounding at the child. And once the child develops a language, then using very intimidating, abusive languages. So the very induction of language into a child's engine, or total engine of attention, is most of the time through very, very, very notoriously bad emotions only. That's why it is easy to create a negative emotion, so-called depressive emotion in somebody else, than a good feeling. It is very difficult to create a pleasant feeling, a happiness, a purpose for language. It's very difficult. The person will go on holding on to that depressive language because it has come to such an extent that a lot of people feel justified